Hello. Again, I'm Sergeant Randy Stewart. I'm just going to give you kind of a brief synopsis of what we've found so far in this investigation, but just keep in mind that this investigation is still ongoing. This incident actually happened on Monday, March 18th. It was about 9 a.m. in the morning. It was during spring break at the high school, Independence High School. There were some students that were doing kind of like an extra credit project for the media area of the school. And Mr. Carrion was part of that, and there were 6 students that went there. And in this room, they have, the classroom, then they have the attached media room, and then there's another room that's attached, which is the dressing room that the students will use when they're doing some of the media projects, to change in and out of different types of clothing. There were 4 females and 2 males, teenagers, all of them. And when the 2 males went to the dressing room, one of them actually noticed a charging block. And in the charging block, he noticed that there was a little pinhole lens in it, and that was actually a camera. So he took it out of the wall where it was plugged in at, and then showed it to one of the other students, the other male student that was in the room with them. They're also able to take out the SD card that was in that charging block. Then went out, they discussed it with the other 4 females that were part of the project. And then they went back to the room and started looking to see what else they could find. They ended up finding another charging block that was plugged into the wall, along with a clock, which they found a lens in. The students, as they were doing this, Mr. Carrion discovered that one charging block was missing. And then he started beginning to ask the students what happened, where's this at, started talking about how it belonged to the maintenance staff. And then eventually got to the point where he was checking the students' pockets, making them empty out their pockets, check their backpacks, and acting kind of frantic is what the students noticed. The student kept it hidden, ended up saying that he had to leave, and then the students ended up leaving, and then eventually went home where they contacted the police. We responded, took the initial report. Our investigators immediately started working this. They did end up serving a search warrant to actually retrieve what was on the SD card that the student saw, which were 4 of the female students in the room changing at various different states of being undressed. And then they were also served a search warrant on the home. I can tell you, as far as there are items of evidence that we recovered from the home, but that those items are still being processed, and that part of the investigation is still ongoing. So yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, Mr. Carrion was placed under arrest. And I can tell you he's charged with 4 counts of voyeurism, 4 counts of surreptitious recording, and also 1 count of exploitation of a minor. Does anybody have any questions?
Is there any reason to believe that there could have, obviously the students found 2 others, total of 3. Is there any reason to believe they could have missed any and there could have been more in the classroom?
Yeah, so they were pretty thorough about going back to the school. I can tell you that the school and the SRO that works there have been very helpful in this investigation. They did end up recovering one of the charging blocks. So let me back up, one of the SD cards, which I could tell you that was actually deleted, but we do have obviously some items that help us recover some of that images. And those images that were on that of the recording did match what the student had taken before, but from a different angle. So it was one of the SD cards from one of those other 2 devices.
Do you have any idea of how long this was going on?
So that again is part of that ongoing investigation. As they go through a lot of these items of evidence, they might be able to find, obviously searching for anything that's related to this case, but if they start finding things that happened in prior dates, they'll start trying to put those pieces together. We just haven't gotten that far in that investigation yet.
This teacher was somebody who was established, had trust in his community, correct?
I mean, I could tell you that he was a teacher at that school. As far as the, exactly what his role is, how close he was to his students, he'd been doing this for a while. Had definitely good outreach with the students. But again, that's really for more of the school as far as understanding that part of his role.
Can you talk about how the students, reacted to this situation? Did they do the right thing when they discovered what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the male student that took the SD card and actually kept it as evidence was very helpful in our investigation. We obviously don't want anybody to put themselves in any harm's way or anything like that for any reason, but in this case, he was able to safely take that part of evidence, return it to us, or get it to us where we can use that as key evidence, obviously, in this investigation. So again, with all the students that were involved, they did the right thing. They stood up for themselves. They got out to where they needed to be, to a safe place, and reported to their parents right away, and then got that to us where we could take over that investigation and work that item of evidence and come up with this arrest.
Speaking of investigation, how do you come up with an arrest on someone like this when you have this type of evidence? I mean, is it something we're trying to set up to watch him, or just straight out arrest him?
Yeah, I mean, once the evidence was processed, it was just a matter of getting everything processed and getting the investigation where they were need to be. They feel comfortable with making these charges. And once those things were in place, they were able to locate them and arrest them.
Just to confirm, how many cameras were found in this case?
So the students had found 3 cameras. I believe we recovered one of those so far, plus the SD card that went to one of the other cameras.
Did you find more at his house, a library of other things?
Yeah, and that's part of that ongoing investigation. I don't have all the details to all the items of evidence that they received from there, but I can tell you they are still working that, and they'll keep working that case. That could be going on for several months, though. Obviously, a lot of these cases, to get the items, we write a search warrant for the items. Then to actually recover that digital evidence, sometimes that requires an additional search warrant. So that does take a while to process it also, so it could be a while before all those items of evidence are processed.
What was the age range for these teens that were involved in this?
The teens were age range between 15 and 17 years old.
And he used spring break extra credit. Can you talk a little bit about that? Was that something that was legit? Did he just make it up? Did the school know anything about it?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the details, from what I know, it was something that the students arranged with the teacher for extra credit, but beyond that, I don't have any further information on that.
How's the suspect doing right now? I mean, we've heard rumors he might have been taken into psychiatric evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that we picked him up yesterday, placed him under arrest. I didn't really get any specifics, though, about his state or anything about that.
Is this a family man, or just called him a teacher?
Yeah, I know he's a teacher, but as far as his personal life, I just don't have a lot of information on his personal life at this time.
No previous record of this until now?
Nothing that we're aware of, no.
Can you explain from when the students found the cameras to when the police department went in and got the evidence of the extra cameras that you guys were able to find?
So the exact time frame from the students reporting us receiving that one block with the SD card and getting another, I don't know the exact time frame, but I can tell you, obviously, it's been part of that investigation from that point to where we are now today.
Are you guys obviously looking to see if there's any other victims than the ones that were on the SD card?
Yeah, so obviously the search warrants we're covering is for this particular crime, but if other items of evidence are discovered during that might relate, then that will open up doors to other investigations. Just have not gotten that far yet.
Not sure if you're able to comment on this, but I think just with a lot of new technology coming out, cameras are getting smaller and smaller. Can you kind of explain what this camera looked like, or what somebody could keep an eye out for if they do come across maybe a situation where they think somebody might be filming them?
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because it's not just, we're talking about this incident at school, but we know this is a issue elsewhere that goes on in other places. A few things, just always be aware of your surroundings. When something doesn't look right, maybe take a look at it. The device in this particular case was, imagine just a regular charging block, just those little cubes. And it just had a small little pin-sized hole right above where the USB cord would go. But it was a lens, and you could tell if you're looking for it that that's what it was. And in most cases, you can still see the lenses if you're looking for it, but they are difficult, and there's various ways that those can be hidden, unfortunately. So the best thing to do is just be aware if something especially looks out of place, doesn't look right, look into it, especially if you're in a place where you're wanting some privacy.
These are obviously kids that were in school, 15 to 17, still pretty young. What's kind of your message to, the fact that these kids were paying attention to their surroundings and were able to spot that something was wrong? And, unfortunately, there were some photos and videos on there. This could have escalated to something worse. I know we're still obviously in an open investigation, but can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, as far as the students in this particular case, obviously they were brave and taking matters in their hand and not just ignoring something that they saw that wasn't right. And that was the biggest thing, is that they knew something was wrong and they took the appropriate actions to try to figure out how to deal with that situation. And in this case, it was taking the item, going and talking to their parents, which eventually led to reporting to the police.
How are the kids doing? I mean, this is an invasion of privacy here. They're supposed to be safe at school. I mean, how are they?
Yeah, I can tell you that there is obviously some emotional, they're emotional about it, obviously. This is very upsetting. I think any of us, even as adults, would be upsetting, especially when it's somebody that you trust and that gets, portrayed. And it's something that they will deal with. We will definitely do whatever we can, as far as we do have victim assistance services, and that we'll do whatever we can to help them out to get through this.
Possibility of maybe there are other victims. This possibly could not be the first time. What should parents look out for if maybe they think their kids, have gone through this and somehow don't say anything, kind of thing? I mean, how can you talk to the parents about, what to do if they think something like this is happening to their kids?
The biggest thing is to have an open dialogue with your children and be honest about the reality of what we face in our world. And when you see things like this that may affect them, have that open dialogue, talk to your children about these things, make them aware of situations that they may come across someday, so that when they do, that they're a little more prepared for it.
What else? I mean, you covered a lot.
Did the kids express any red flags about this teacher beyond this incident?
There was none that was brought to my attention at this point. But, sorry, go ahead.
Can you kind of talk to the fact that he also tried to coerce these kids into giving up the evidence that they had found, and that he also went through their pockets and then their backpacks to try to get the evidence, and even told them, if you guys don't get this back, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. I think this is also something that's common when adults are trying to coerce a kid into giving up something that they know is going to be used against them.
Yeah, in this case, we know that there was a frantic act. He knew that he was caught, and it showed by the way his actions were, in kind of a desperate way of trying to get that items of evidence to keep himself out of trouble. And that's the reality of suspects. We've seen it a lot, especially in child crimes. When they get caught, they get desperate. But in this case, ultimately, we are happy that none of the children were physically harmed and that they're able to leave on their own. And again, one of them even had a piece of evidence that helped them out in this investigation. And if I could just go back to your question, I do want to stress again that when these things happen in children's lives, when parents see it, just have that open dialogue. Talk to your children about the realities of what they might face, and that when they do face those, they're going to be a little bit more prepared if you've had those discussions. Thank you.
And just to really echo what Sergeant Stewart just said, we're really proud of what these teenagers did. They were smart enough to go ahead and say something, react to it, take the items out of the room. All of that was very crucial for this investigation. We also want to commend the school and the school district. They have been very cooperative throughout this whole investigation as well. They are, not only did they remove this teacher from the school immediately and take action, they're actively working with the students to get them any help that they might need as well. So we really want to commend the school and the school district as well with all this, and we thank you guys for the coverage.